The message arrived on a gray Tuesday, tucked between a utility bill and a spam offer for discounted shoes. At first Allison almost deleted it, assuming it was junk. But then she saw the subject line, Writer's Evening, Invitation. She frowned, opened it, and read. Someone, she wasn't even sure who, had come across her recent piece and added her name to a mailing list for a local gathering of writers. Nothing formal. No stage, no microphones. Just people in a bookstore downtown, sharing words and listening. Her heart thudded once, hard. She reread the short invitation twice, then closed her laptop as if it might burn her fingers. A writer's evening. A room full of strangers. The thought alone made her pulse quicken. For days, the idea stalked her. While she laced up her shoes for her morning run. While she brewed coffee and measured the scoops just the way David had. While she scribbled lines into her notebook late at night. Part of her wanted to laugh at the absurdity. Her, standing in front of people, pretending she belonged. But another part, a quieter, steadier part, whispered that maybe she did belong. Or at least that she deserved to find out. Still, the doubts circled like crows. What if she froze? What if her words sounded foolish out loud? What if they looked at her the way people sometimes did when grief slipped through her voice, half pity, half discomfort? On Thursday evening she found herself staring at the invitation again, the cursor hovering over the RSVP link. Her chest tightened. She closed the laptop, stood up, and began pacing the apartment. I can't, she whispered into the empty room. Not yet. But even as she said it, she wasn't sure she believed herself. The following morning, Allison ran by the Charles River. The air was crisp, and the water shimmered with the faint promise of autumn light. She slowed near the bridge and leaned against the railing, catching her breath. All around her, other runners passed by, earbuds in, faces focused. She watched them, and a thought rose unbidden, every single one of them carries something invisible. Fears. Regrets. Dreams. None of them broadcast it, but it lived inside them, just like hers lived inside her. Maybe stepping into that bookstore wouldn't make her the odd one out. Maybe it would just make her visible. By Saturday, she had made up her mind, though she didn't tell anyone. She would go. Not commit to reading, not promise herself any grand transformation. Just go, sit, and listen. That was enough. Still, when the evening came, Allison stood in front of her closet for what felt like an hour. Everything looked wrong. Too casual. Too stiff. Too much like she was trying. At last she pulled on her favorite sweater, soft and worn at the sleeves, and jeans that fit comfortably. If she was going to feel exposed, she might as well be comfortable. At the door, she hesitated, hand on the knob, pulse hammering. Her mind spun excuses, too tired, too late, too foolish. But she remembered Claire's voice, months earlier, sometimes you just need someone to guide you through the fog. This wasn't a therapist's office. But maybe it was another kind of guidance. She exhaled, squared her shoulders, and stepped out. The bookstore was tucked into a side street she rarely visited, its front windows glowing golden against the night. Through the glass, she could see shelves lined with books and a scattering of chairs arranged in a loose circle. Her throat tightened. She almost turned back. But then someone pushed the door open from inside, balancing a stack of folding chairs, and smiled at her. You here for the reading? Allison's mouth went dry. She managed a small nod. Come on in, the woman said warmly, stepping aside. We're just getting set up. The smell hit her first, the familiar, comforting blend of paper, ink, and dust. Bookstore air. For a moment, her chest loosened. She had loved that smell once. Maybe she still did. There were about a dozen people. Some chatting in low voices, some already seated with notebooks on their laps. Allison hovered near the back, clutching her bag like a shield. First time, someone asked. She turned. A man in his 50s, kind-eyed, with a notebook as battered as hers. Yes, she said softly. Good place to start, he replied, then offered a reassuring smile before turning back to his notes. Allison exhaled slowly, easing into a chair along the wall. She wasn't sure if her hands were shaking from nerves or from the draft seeping through the old windows. The evening began with introductions. People spoke their names, a little about what they wrote, poetry, essays, short stories. When the circle reached her, Allison's throat tightened. I'm Allison, she managed. Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to keep going. I write, mostly personal things. Journals, essays. Nothing formal. A few people nodded, smiling. No one pressed her. The circle moved on. Her heart slowed a little. Maybe she could do this. The first reader was a young woman with nervous energy, clutching pages that shook in her hands. She read a poem about her grandmother, voice wavering at first, then gathering strength. By the end, the room was silent, everyone holding the pause before they clapped. The second reader was more confident, a man who shared a short story laced with humor. Laughter rippled around the circle. Allison sat listening, absorbing, her hands folded tight in her lap. The words weren't polished or perfect. They were raw, honest. That was what made them alive. For the first time in months, maybe years, she wasn't thinking about David, or about her own loss. She was simply inside the moment, carried by someone else's voice. Then came the part she dreaded, open sharing. Anyone else want to read? The host asked, glancing around the circle. Allison's chest seized. She stared at her notebook in her bag. Pages filled with words she hadn't let anyone hear. Her mind screamed, don't. Not tonight. Too soon. But another voice rose quietly inside her, steadier, why not tonight? Her fingers trembled as she slid the notebook out. She didn't raise her hand. She didn't need to. The host's eyes caught hers and softened. Would you like to? Allison swallowed hard, then nodded. Her legs felt unsteady as she crossed to the front. She opened the notebook to a page she'd written only a week ago, words scrawled late at night after reading the flood of messages in her inbox. She cleared her throat. This isn't polished, she began. It's just, something I needed to write. The circle leaned in. She began to read. Her voice shook at first, but the words carried her forward. I don't know how long this road is. I don't know if grief ever really ends. But I do know it feels less heavy when someone else says, me too. Maybe we're not meant to outrun the missing. Maybe we're meant to learn how to live with it, together. Silence settled when she finished. A silence that wasn't empty, but full, like the pause after a song before the first clap breaks through. Then the room erupted in soft applause. Allison's chest ached, but not from sorrow. From release. Afterward, a few people approached her. They thanked her. They told her her words resonated. One woman simply squeezed her hand and said, I felt that. Allison didn't know what to say. But she smiled, and for the first time in months, the smile felt real. Walking home through the quiet streets, notebook pressed to her chest, she realized something had shifted. The grief was still there, she knew it always would be. But tonight, it had shared space with something else, belonging. And that, she thought, might be enough to keep walking forward.